Hey everyone, so this is not a video I was expecting to make. I'm pretty sure I said that I wouldn't cover Games Workshop stuff, but this is kind of an important issue. You've probably seen it in the title. Now, a quick bit of bookkeeping. I'm absolutely happy for people to have different opinions in the comment sections. That's no problem if you disagree with me. But if there's any sort of name calling or being a dick in general, I will delete your comment. I'm going to start with a TLDR for those who just want a quick little snippet. Basically, Games Workshop is suing Ghamak for unfair competition, and that pretty much is a trademark lawsuit. So, yeah, that's pretty much where we're at now. Right now, Ghamak has got a legal fund going in the form of GoFundMe. So if you want to support the defense, there'll be a GoFundMe in the comments link. There'll be a link to GoFundMe in the comments, and there'll be a link to GoFundMe in the description as well. So definitely check that out if you can. Now, if you are in support of Games Workshop, or if you are in support of Ghamak, you should support either way. You should support the lawsuit either way. And I know that sounds weird, because it's like, well, if I'm pro Games Workshop, why would I donate to the opposing guy? Because you want Games Workshop to win this case. You want this case to go to court, and you want Games Workshop to win it, because that means Games Workshop are more protected. If you support Ghamak, you want him to get his day in court so he can defend himself. So that's where we're at. Sorry, Ghamak is actually a group of people, but I'm particularly talking about Francesco. So anyway, that's the TLDR. Now, we're going to get into this properly now. So I'm going to talk about sort of the background that I know from this court case, or this pending court case, we'll say. And then I'm going to talk about sort of my reasoning behind why I am on the side I'm on. So I'm going to also assume that Games Workshop is taking this lawsuit to court in good faith, as in they wish to, protect their IP, and they are not using the legal system as a sledgehammer to beat Ghamak into submission, basically. So I'm going to go forward with the assumption that they are in good faith, even though personally I'm a bit... But we're going to argue the fact that Games Workshop is doing this all above board. Okay, so the story is as follows. In 2023, Games Workshop sent out a bunch of cease and desist orders to different stores that were pretty much making one-to-one copies of their miniatures. These people were told to take their storefront down. If they didn't, they get sued. Just for the record, completely fair. I think this is absolutely fair. I've said before, don't make one-for-one copies of Games Workshop stuff. Don't download one-for-one copies of Games Workshop stuff. Don't print one-for-one copies of Games Workshop stuff. It's not cool. It is their IP. They're allowed to defend it. So I'm actually on Games Workshop side with the cease and desist being sent out. Now, a few of the creators who got sent out, they managed to contact Games Workshop, and Games Workshop was like, yep, no worries, we've sorted it out. Ghamak got a cease and desist and did not get this luxury. He sent Ghamak, the person who leads the group, is called Francesco Pizzo, I believe is how you pronounce it. If I got it wrong, I'm sorry. So he got a letter from Games Workshop, cease and desist. And so he sent a letter back and said, hey, can you let me know which models are the problem, and I will take them down or alter them to your satisfaction. So they followed up with a reiteration of take the store down, but never ever sent him a letter to, never listed what was the problem. So they also sent one to My Mini Factory to get his store taken down. My Mini Factory said, no worries, Games Workshop, can we have a list? Never heard from Games Workshop. Now, Francesco didn't just stop with one letter. He kept sending multiple letters. Please give me a list and I will make sure that this is done. Please give me a list and I will make sure this is done. He never heard back, but what he did get on January of this year, 2025, he got a notice that Games Workshop was suing him for unfair competition, which is a form of trademark law from what I can tell. Whether or not it's in Italy or UK, I'm not sure yet. Now, I have been in contact with the Ghamak team, and they have told me that they will be releasing a full video to cover sort of all their bases and discuss the lawsuit in a more definitive term. So if something does change, I will release another video about it, but otherwise maybe a short if it's a minor update. Otherwise, I won't cover it until something is settled. Hey guys, a quick update here. I know it's jumping straight into the middle of the video, but Ghamak, since I started making this video, has released a little bit of an update on what's going on with the court case through Patreon. And Games Workshop is suing under an Article 2598. The main basis that Games Workshop is going to be using is that signs, elements, or shapes that Francesco uses in his models would immediately identify these models as coming from Games Workshop. We'll talk about that in the next section, though. So, I don't know, but yeah, that's the quick update for that little section. That's pretty much the story as it's known. You can read this on the GoFundMe page as well, so if you've already done that, well, you just heard a recap. And that's pretty much, that's all the story is at the moment. Now, that being said, where do I sit on all this? Now, my knee-jerk reaction was vitriol, I'll be completely honest. I like Ghamak stuff. I don't believe it's that similar to Games Workshop stuff. But, you know, I decided to sit on it for a couple days and not go completely batshit because I thought it's good to hear what other people have got to say so I can, you know, limit my sort of rage over the issue. And I'm glad I did because, yeah. So we're going to talk about 3 topics that I'm going to quickly cover on to why I'm in the position I'm sitting at the moment. Topic number 1 is Ghamak stuff is too similar to Games Workshop, which I disagree with. Now, there have been a few people sharing 1 or 2 models continually, back to back, that do look pretty damn similar to their Games Workshop. In fact, I'd say they're pretty close to 1-to-1. They're not quite, but they're there. Now, that being said, Ghamak has said that they are more than happy to change any designs that were too similar. They did not get the opportunity to do so. As far as some of the other stuff, I don't agree with it. I'm sorry. When I look at Sidereum Knights, and I put them next to their Space Marine counterparts, there is no way in hell you are mistaking the two. The helmet, the backpack, the shoulder pads, and the guns all look different. The only things that look even remotely similar are the legs and the arms and the torso in the rough shape, but most of Ghamak's torsos are just blank armor. They don't have any insignia or anything like that on them. So even then, torsos are a bit... And then arms and legs, come on. Like, you can't copyright arms and legs unless they look really crazy. That being said, there are some, of course, similar models. But I personally think that overall, if I was to take a rough guesstimate at how much of Ghamak stuff is a bit too similar to Games Workshop, I'd probably say like 10%. They want him to take his whole store down. That's just unreasonable. I don't think there's enough of a similarity for Games Workshop to really action this properly. I mean, to be completely fair, even when you look at something like Ghamak's version of, say, Deathcore, they're World War I inspired, but they don't look like Deathcore. In fact, I'll put some pictures up, and you can see that the Deathcore kill team that just came out doesn't look anything like Ghamak's Deathcore, pretty much. So, I mean, for me personally, I just don't think that this is super accurate. I do think that some of his earlier stuff probably could use an update, but this is exactly why a list should have been sent out. Now, speaking of which, topic number 2 that I want to bring up. Ghamak did their due diligence. I think they did. They got the letter. They said to Games Workshop, please give us a list and we'll try and fix it. And Games Workshop basically ghosted them for the most part. They ghosted my mini factory. My mini factory is like, give us a list of the models that Ghamak is supposedly, you know, selling that are your models. And they didn't give them one either. Like, come on. You know... What exactly was he meant to do? Because Ghamak is not one person. It's not Francesco. It's 12 designers. They all run under the one banner. You can't just turn around to 11 other people and go, well, that's it, boys. Time to close the store up because Games Workshop thinks our models are a bit similar to theirs. Particularly when it's like they don't even want to breach the topic with you. They don't even want to approach the topic with Ghamak on this one. So for me personally, I just feel like that's a bit shit. Like, you know, if someone's willing to come to the table and go, hey, let's hash this out, I don't understand why Games Workshop wouldn't come to the table, because they have for other people. And, you know, they're not suing Station Forge. And, like, Station Forge orcs look very freaking similar to Games Workshop orcs. I'm sorry, I mean, I love Station Forge's stuff. But why do they get... and Ghamak doesn't? And also Station Forge's AdMech, which I can't remember what they call them, they look a hell of a lot like AdMech as well. So, I mean... why is it okay for one person, not okay for the other? I don't know. And then number 3, I don't think Games Workshop should be throwing stones in their glass house. Games Workshop is not innocent of co-opting things. Just to name a few off the top of my head, Alien, Lord of the Rings, and yes, they do own the rights to that now, but they didn't back in the 80s. You know, Lord of the Rings, Dune, Terminator, and that's just some fictional stuff, you know, that they sort of co-opted into their stuff. And then we're not talking about real world stuff either, which, you know, World War One trench soldiers, particularly on the German side, medieval Germany, medieval France, and particularly medieval Germany. I mean, the whole entire Holy Roman Empire thing, very much similar to how the Empire runs in Warhammer Fantasy. Oh, and speaking of which, Romans are, of course, a massive influence on Games Workshop, having a lot of Roman iconography on Space Marines. So, I don't know, like, where they're sort of coming from here. And mythology. Don't forget mythology. They took a lot of stuff from mythology as well. And I mean, I know that a lot of you would sit there and go, well, they're still not copying one for one. It's like, yeah, I know, but they were inspired by these things, and they made things that were close to them, and they didn't get sued over them, because why would they when they make similar items and not exact ones? Just for the record, I don't think Games Workshop should get into hot water for anything they've just done. As in, anything I've just mentioned, sorry. I don't think they should get into hot water with Lord of the Rings, which they couldn't because they own the rights to make the miniature game. But, you know, I don't think Dungeons & Dragons should be suing them for using Dungeons & Dragons style creatures. I don't think they should be sued by Terminator, you know, Universal, I think that was. Jeez, I can't remember who did Terminator now. Whoever it was, you know, James Cameron shouldn't be kicking in their door being like, ooh, you made robot skeletons, how dare you? Because they are different, but they are definitely inspired by Terminators. Hell, the original phrase is "will be back." That was their original reanimation protocol deal. It's called "will be back," and it was called "will be back" way into the 2000s. So it may even still be called that. I don't know. I haven't played since 8th edition. I feel like it was called Reanimation in 8th edition. But that's what I mean. Like, and do I think that Games Workshop should be sued for that stuff? No, I don't. And I also don't think they'd have a leg to stand on, the company suing Games Workshop either. But I think it's a bit hypocritical to turn around and go, oh, your stuff is a bit too similar to ours, and so we're going to sue you. Now, that being said, Ghamak definitely has some stuff that could use an overhaul, but he wasn't given the option. Games Workshop did not give him the option to do this. Okay, so now that I've sort of gone through my stuff of the reasoning behind why I support Ghamak, I'm actually going to reshoot the ending right here and now. Sorry about the headphones, but, you know, this is sort of a last-minute kind of thing, and I can't be bothered brushing my hair and all that crap. So, I really, at first I was sort of like, not sure who could win this one. You know, obviously, for me personally, I think that I'm more on the side of Ghamak here. I'm trying to be as neutral as possible during the video, though, because I think that's just the best way to go with this. Now, that being said, Games Workshop and this Article 2598, I don't think they have a leg to stand on, in my personal opinion. Now, legally, that could be much different, depending on the judge, depending on if there's a jury, and what their opinions are. But I personally think that If I went to a Games Workshop tournament with Ghamak's miniatures, I would not be allowed to play because they would be recognized as non-Games Workshop miniatures. I'm sorry, like, I mean, I know that some people would go, oh, but some of them look really similar. Yeah, but what they're arguing is Ghamak stuff is, like, there's no difference between Ghamak and Games Workshop stuff, to the point that if you put it on the table, people wouldn't recognize that they're not Games Workshop's miniatures. Sorry, that's bullshit. I'm sorry, I do think it is. I think clearly the miniatures have stylistic differences. I don't know what else to say about this. Now, the thing is that this is the first kind of case that will be going before a European court with this particular article in question, which means it will set precedent. This is... I actually said in my pre-recording of this, so the old recording, that I felt like the Games Workshop would not actually take this fully to court. I thought that there would be a settlement reached, because I feel that if Games Workshop loses this, oh boy, that's going to be real rough for them. Like, if they win, they're going to be in a really strong position. But if they lose, that is going to be so difficult for them to come back from. And I think doubly so now that I've actually read what article they're suing under. Now, I'm not a legal expert. Maybe a legal expert out there will say, oh, no, Vamps, you're wrong. And if they say that, I'm not a legal expert. But based on my rudimentary knowledge of law, which is, as I said, rudimentary, I think that this is a bit of a bad faith argument. Well, I mean, I don't really want to say that because I don't want to come out and just, like, shit on Games Workshop directly, but I really think that this is not great, honestly. I think... And also, the other thing is to be really concerned about is if they win this case, oh boy, if you don't think they'll go after things like Station Forge and other places like that, you are gonna be really wrong on this. Because they will. Basically, if they win this case, they'll be able to go after anyone who has remotely similar miniatures to them. Or they can at least use it to go for it. And that may not just be 3D printed miniatures, by the way. This could be big. This could be... They start suing anyone who has remotely anything that looks like a Games Workshop idea, which is bullcrap. Sorry, I think it is. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that I really still think that regardless of what side you're on, you should donate to Ghamak's defense. Now, the other thing I've noticed is that Ghamak's his GoFundMe increases as certain milestones are met. So that's just how GoFundMe works. So right now, as of this particular moment, he's at $37,000, but he actually needs $100,000 for his defense. So please share Ghamak's GoFundMe page. I don't give a shit if you don't share this video. Couldn't give two flying fucks about myself, to be completely honest, in this situation. Please share Ghamak's stuff, and if you can, donate. If you can't, definitely get some sharing going. We need to get this out there because this could have a massive knock-on effect in the 3D printer community. Obviously, there will be some models, there will be some companies that will be spared from this, but I really think that Games Workshop, if they win this case, could end up being in a very dangerous spot for a lot of companies. A lot of very small companies who probably won't be able to formulate much of a defense, because even Ghamak, who's one of the more popular miniature smaller miniature creators, he doesn't have enough money for it. They don't have enough money for it. There's 12 of them. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at the moment. I don't really know what else to say about this. I will say this though, I will respect the court's decision. If this goes to court and the judge rules in favor of Games Workshop, I respect that decision. Don't agree with it, but I respect it. And also, if Ghamak wins, you won't see any kind of celebration video where I'm like, yeah, Games Workshop got wrecked. No, like, I will respect the court's decision either way, because that's how the legal system has to work. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sorry that this topic was a bit depressing, because it is a bit depressing overall. And yeah, I mean, thanks once again. And I'll see you on the next video. Hopefully we'll be a bit cheerier next time. Well, I really hope we're a bit cheerier next time. Thanks, guys. See yous.